Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video comparing the 2024 Ram 1500 to the Silverado 1500 and finally to the new F-150. Before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to the Large Miller Dodge Ram here in Provo, the Ford here in Provo, and the Chevy here in Provo for giving me some time with all three trucks. I'll include a link to all their websites in the description down below. And then on a side note, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below as well. Let's get into it. Under the hood of the Ram, we have a naturally aspirated 5.7 liter Hemi V8 that goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission. Fuel economy is 18 around town and then 22 on the highway, with power outputs being 395 horsepower and then 410 pound-feet of torque. Now, powering the F-150 is a twin-turbo 3.5 liter V6 that goes through a 10-speed automatic transmission. Fuel economy is 16 around town and then 24 on the highway. Power outputs are 400 horsepower and then 500 pound-feet of torque. Under the hood, we have a 5.3 liter V8 that goes through a 10-speed automatic transmission. Fuel economy is 15 around town and then 19 on the highway, with power outputs being 355 horsepower and then 383 pound-feet of torque. Now, before I move forward with this comparison, I do want to mention, if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Now, all three of these trucks are kind of like the middle-of-the-line package: RST, XLT, and then Bighorn with the Night Edition package. So you notice that they all have, well, headlights and fog lights. We got recovery points on all of them as well, but there are some differences. So the lights on the Chevy and the Ford are a little bit brighter compared to what we have the Ram, because the Ram just has standard halogen bulbs. And then aside from that, you can see the Ram kind of has more rounded off lines, whereas with the Ford and with the Silverado, it's a little bit sharper, so they kind of have like a boxier design. But regardless, let me know which front end design you like most. So with the Ram, our turn wheel setup is 275 by 55 by 20 in the front and over in the rear. And I really like these wheels, all blacked out on the Night Edition. And if we take a few steps back, here's the side profile. The Ram looks really sharp, with everything being blacked out in contrast to the white paint on this particular truck. And all three of the trucks, by the way, have the longer bed with this comparison. Now, last thing I want to mention with the Ram, it has the most unique suspension out of the bunch. It has coil suspension in the back end. Now with the Ford, our turn wheel setup is 275 by 60 by 20 in the front and over in the rear. With this XLT, it's got the standard package, so you've got chrome all over, and that's what you guys saw on the bumper as well. But notice the Ford actually has side steps, which is pretty cool. And the Ford also has trailer mirrors, which are pretty large. And here, I'll pop under so you guys can see the mirror itself as compared to the Ram. And then the Ford does utilize traditional leaf springs. And then in terms of the side view, I'm not really going to be able to give you guys too good of a view because it's squished between the other two trucks, but there you go. Now around the side here, our turn wheel setup is 275 by 60 by 20 in the front and over in the rear. And you can see the wheels on the Silverado also blacked out similar to the Ram. And the Silverado actually has all-terrain tires, pretty cool setup. But nothing too crazy here on the side. They kind of keep it a little bit cleaner, right? And then we do have, just like the Ford, leaf springs in the back with the Silverado. And then taking a few steps back, here's your full side profile. Well, now we have a bed war between all of these. So with the Ram, you can see we've got cargo tie-down points, and you've got sliders for that. We also have LED lights, protection from the factory. And like I said, all these trucks have the 6.5-foot bed option. Now with the Ram, lifting up the tailgate, it's easy. With the Ford, got a tailgate step. Got some protection here, but yeah, no bed liner from the factory on this one. LED lights. Got an outlet in the bed. And then with the tailgate, a little bit heavier than the Rams, but still easy enough. And then with the Silverado, this has the multi-flex, so this can pop down to be a seat. Or not a seat, a step. I don't know why I said seat. Anyways, LED lights here. And then got a full outlet in the bed. And then lifting this up, I'd say it's in between in terms of weight. The Ford's the heaviest. But with the rear ends, you can see stylistically very different in certain ways. So with the Chevy, very kind of like upright with the look, and you can see kind of those sharper lines. And look at the exhaust tips too, very squared off. With the Ford, it's still, you know, pretty angular, pretty sharp, but a little bit more rounded off compared to the Silverado. I mean, look at the bumper, for example, on the edges versus the bumper steps in the Silverado, and how that makes it look boxier. And with the Ram, it's the most rounded off with the styling there. Now in the back of the Silverado, legroom is great. We've got some nice trim here on the door panel. Very tight fit and finish, by the way. And then cloth seats with this one, being an RST. Got the cool seat storage. I think that's just a nice feature in general. We do have some vents back here, USBs, all of that. And then headroom, it's good. Legroom in the Ford also enormous. Still have vents, still have charging ports, all of that. Got Ford's cloth seats here. And then with the door panel, you do have some kind of like soft touch trim, stitching. Material's very interesting. And then something to note, headroom, also good. And the Ford's easy to get in because of the side steps. Those do help out. I feel like they're all just the same when it comes to space. The Ram's also massive. And then look at the door panel trim, got the nice stitching and everything down below. The Ram also comes with ice buckets. Nice feature. USB ports, vents, all of that. And then I will say, I think these are the nicest cloth seats. Definitely the most comfortable to sit in. And then headroom, it's good. And let's start up the Silverado. Ooh, that V8 sounds good. Look at the door panel with the nice trim. Just like what you have in the back. Mirror adjustments. By the way, payload, 1,655 pounds. Nice solid sound. We've got our advanced four-wheel drive system, 2-speed transfer case, all of that, light controls. And we do have drive modes with this as well. So that's all nice. And then steering wheel, it's got nice soft touch trim all around. You got adaptive cruise control, heated steering wheel, all of that. Column shifter in this, which is interesting. Definitely an interesting feature to have. Just a traditional backup camera, by the way. And then as for the infotainment system, I think this one's kind of like the smallest looking, even though they're pretty much all the same size. It's just how the unit is integrated that makes it look smaller, where it doesn't have a casing around it like the other two. But, well, other than taking a second to load up, I will say, in my experience, this responds pretty quickly. I mean, you can see they're pretty much instantaneous. And then we do have some nice features down below, like your tailgate drop down, hill descent control, trailer brake controls. We got heated seats, dual zone climate. This one has the bench seat configuration. Got more storage underneath the seat too. And then we got 2 glove boxes there, nice trim on the dash as well. And then the rear window is fixed. And starting up in the quietest truck, the F-150. Just like this Chevy, you've got kind of like soft touch trim here. All of your window controls, all of that. And then you get those big mirrors. Payload in the Ford, 1,805 pounds. Nice solid sound. Got our light controls here. Nice trim on the steering wheel with the Ford. You got adaptive cruise control just like the Chevy. Big digital gauge cluster. We've got a bunch of different drive modes. So far pretty similar, right? And then that is not reverse. In reverse, you can see you've got 360 camera, so that's a nice feature to have, bird's eye view, all of that. And I will say, Ford's column shifters sometimes can be kind of finicky getting them back. As for the rest of the infotainment system, response time takes a second for some of the pages to load up, but pretty good. Got some physical controls up top, like hill descent control, for example. Trailer brake controls, just a traditional 2-speed transfer case, but we do have a rear locking differential that you select. Dual zone climate, heated seats, no heated steering wheel though. Good storage here. Center console with the Ford, which is nice padding. Double glove box, just like the Chevy. And then this actually has a power sliding rear window, so that's nice. And starting up in the Ram. Soft touch here, just like the other two. See a nice door panel trim overall. All of your window controls and everything. Blind spot monitoring with the mirrors. And then payload on this one is right there, 1479. Solid sound. Light controls there, pedal adjustment too. Steering wheel is pretty fancy. Radio controls in the back. This is the only truck that's not full digital, so you can see some analog elements with the gauge cluster. And then we've got just a traditional backup camera. Dual zone climate, heated seats, heated steering wheel, big infotainment system. You can see what I'm talking about. The casing around it makes the screen look bigger than the screen actually is when you like look, because you look at the whole unit as a piece, if that makes sense. But anyways, you got the climate controls there. Got that like parking sensors, trailer brake controls integrated. Just like the Chevy, it's got advanced four-wheel drive system, 2-speed transfer case. Center console with this. Got good storage there. Double glove box, just like the other two. And then we do have a power sliding rear window, which is a nice feature. So the Ram stickers for about $65K. The Ford also stickers for about $65K. the Chevy stickers for almost $63K, so it's actually the most affordable out of the bunch. And with that being said, let's drive them and see which one wins. Let's talk about visibility in the Ram. It's over the hood, both the mirrors, and the rear. I'm gonna do Ram first, then Chevy, then Ford last, because Ford's the new kid on the block. So we gotta figure out if the new kid is the coolest kid. I will say the seats in the Ram, very comfortable. I love these bighorn seats. The cloth just, it's nice. It's got this nice like soft texture to it, but it still feels durable. I think that's probably like the best way to describe it. Oh, auto stop start. This one has the e-torque. So yeah, it's always interesting to get used to that. Ah, I love the Hemi. Smooth, naturally aspirated V8 power. Can't go wrong. Can't go wrong with that. It's always a good time when you got a Hemi under the hood. And punch it a little bit here. Yeah, just listen to that sound. Acceleration's strong too. Yeah, and you know, you don't really, I've said this in the past, you don't really notice the long beds. It's cool that you can get all these with the crew cabin long bed, because that makes this like the ultimate family vehicle. Tons of bed space and tons of cab space. Can't go wrong with that. See, overall, I mean, the Ram's comfortable, seats are comfortable, drives well. So let's pop into this Chevy. Well, let's talk about visibility here. Visibility over the hood, both the mirrors, and rear. Let us set off in the 1500 Silverado. So I will say these seats are a bit firmer than the Rams right off the bat. So that's a difference. Suspension's a little more truck-like. The Ram with that coil suspension was kind of smooth over the bumps. This isn't not smooth, but it's not quite as compliant, I guess, is the way that I could put it. This Ram makes sense with the leaf springs that this has. But outside of that, it's not as different as you might think. Engine's pretty responsive. It's just the 5.3, but it's got pretty good torque. Nice. Turn signal doesn't want to stay on. Let's get up and get our acceleration here with the Silverado. Not as quick as the Ram, but it's still got good power. You can get a diesel in this. You can also get the 6.2 V8. Those a little bit punchier than this 5.3, but not a bad engine. So yeah, overall, I mean, the Silverado drives like a truck. It's got that big, substantial truck feel, and it's got a pretty solid powertrain with it. And for the price difference between this and the other two, you could get the diesel or the 6.2 V8 and still be actually probably a little bit less money than the other two. So we're about the same. With that being said, let's go pop into the Ford. Well, let's talk about visibility before we set off. Here's visibility of the hood, both the mirrors. Do a blind spot ring throughout the rest of the rear. And last but not least, F-150, the EcoBoost. Feels the most lightweight out of the bunch. Makes sense with the aluminum construction. Suspension's closer to the Rams. And none of them are uncomfortable with the suspension. But I will say the Ram has the best planted feel. Suspension doesn't wander as much as the Chevy or as the Ford. I see that as a pretty big benefit. Ooh, lots of torque. Those V8s definitely feel more responsive right off the bat, right? Big displacement, naturally aspirated. But this has a lot of torque, so it makes up for that lack of V8-ness, as you might say. And oh wow, solid. Definitely the quickest. Definitely the quickest. But the Ram doesn't feel too far behind. So to sum things up, man, it's a tough one. Value-wise, I mean, the Chevy's the least expensive, so it kind of adds. But if it had an engine that was more competitive, it would be close to the same price. It's a tough one. They're all really close. I know it's annoying. Hey, you know, I hate it too when people say that. They're all really close. But what I will say is I think that Ram, in this case, with this particular segment, Bighorn, XLT, RST, I think Ram edges out a slight win. I just like the equipment and the drive of that one. And then that V8's really nice. So let me know which one you'd go for, but I think I'd organize them probably Ram, Ford, then Chevy. But a really close first, second, and third. So let me know which truck you like the best.